In the headlines, Foreign Affairs Ministry hails US government for publicly exposing and condemning TPLF. Kenyan experts say GERD plays paramount role for regional development. Hello there, a very warm welcome to ETV News. I'm Grum Tariku. The Foreign Affairs Ministry of Ethiopia said it is encouraging that the US government is exposing and condemning TPLF. In a press briefing issued yesterday, the spokesperson of the ministry, Ambassador Dina Mufti, also commented on HR 6600. Johannes Fantown reports.
This week, the U.S. State Department issued a statement condemning the TPLF's atrocities, despite the fact that the U.S. government's position is volatile. At a time when the U.S. government is increasing pressure on Ethiopia, it's surprising that such statements are being made.
With regard to the condemnation of the State Department, condemnation of the TPLF, well, it's good. We say, it's better to be late than never. I mean, this is something that should have come earlier on, but this is I think the one has to say call a spade, so that things will be okay.
In relation to the human rights sanction bill proposed by the U.S. Congress, the ambassador said Ethiopia hasn't done any human rights abuse regarding to the war in the northern part of the country.
HR 6600. There is now new development that I can report to you. And all I'm hearing is actually that it was on the floor of the Congress, and they will see how it will evolve. But, well, I want still to reiterate that this HR doesn't serve the interests of both countries, because Ethiopia has been cooperative in all issues that had been raised with regard to humanitarian relief, with the human rights. You know, the outstanding issues with regard to the conflict are two or three. One is actually investigation of the human rights violations in the region, that Ethiopia has allowed the UN Human Rights Agency and her own pertinent institution. They have carried out the human rights violations in Tigray, and they have reported it. The Ethiopian government has facilitated situations for that, and we were not against it. And another issue was the issue of impeded access, unfettered access. That is also an issue that has been dealt with successfully, and there is no problem on the part of the Ethiopian government for the unfettered access. The impediment is somewhere else.
Ethiopian Human Rights Commission has criticized the HR 6600 bill to have a negative impact on the ongoing investigation conducted by the UN Human Rights Office and the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission into alleged violations of human rights, humanitarian and refugee law committed by parties to the conflict in Tigray.
In a related development, a spokesperson of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ethiopia, Ambassador Dina Mufti, also presented current issues of political, economic and citizen-centered diplomacy. He recalled that Ethiopia has participated by a delegation led by Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed recently in AU-EU conference held in Brussels and held bilateral talks with representatives of various countries. In addition to strengthening bilateral relations, various countries have been made to understand the truth about Ethiopia. The spokesperson also recalled the efforts made by Ethiopian ambassadors living abroad in strengthening the bilateral relations with different countries and eye-opening efforts on the unwavering position of Ethiopia for peace.
Salud.
Coordinating Committee for Economic Cooperation with African Countries, AFROCOM, has officially opened its office in Addis Ababa. On the occasion, Chairman of AFROCOM, Igor Morvoz, stated that the opening of the office will play a paramount significance in creating a strong trade and economic partnership between Ethiopia and Russia. In a later development, the Industry Minister Melaku Alabel received a delegation from Moscow led by head of the Russian Central Research Institute of Ferrous Metallurgy. Russia offered its full support to Ethiopia, while some Western powers were pressuring the country at the international platforms like the UN Security Council. Melaku also briefed the Russian delegation that Ethiopia is implementing integrated national policies and strategies to alleviate poverty, ensure sustainable development, and build democratic culture.
This is the white oil of Ethiopia.
Tejnesh Gerome shows us all she's ever used to light up her house, a bottle kerosene lump. She lives in a village 2 hours drive north.
አልፎ የህብረተሰቡን ኑሮ ለመለወጥ ለሚደረገው ጉዞና ለሀገራችን ኢኮኖሚ አስተዋጽኦ ለማድረግ በመብቃቱ ይህ በእኛ ትውልድ የአባቶቻችንን ህልም ለማሳካት በመቻላችን ኩራትና ደስታ ይሰማናል።
የታችኛው ተፋሰስ ሀገራት ወንድም የግብጽና የሱዳን ህዝቦች ዛሬ የተጀመረው የኃይል ማመንጨት ስራ ለእናንተም በረከት ነውና እንኳን ደስ ያላችሁ ልላችሁ ፈልጋለሁ።
This project for us as Ethiopians, as I feel myself, it is not a common project. It is not something that comes every day. We have done a lot of projects together.
A renowned scholar, Ayele Hagena, criticizes Egypt's intention to persistently argue on the legal framework signed between Egypt and Sudan over the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. In an exclusive interview with ABC English, he stressed that Ethiopia will not sign any agreement which potentially affects its future development, noting the nature of the GERD project is not to harm downstream countries. As to him, cooperation must be based on mutual understanding, mutual interest, good intentions, benefits for all, and the principles of international law. Kasaun Chani has the following account.
Moving on, following Sunday's early power generation from the dam, Egypt's foreign ministry accused Ethiopia of further violation of a preliminary deal signed between us three nations in 2015, prohibiting any of the parties from taking unilateral actions in the use of the river's water. So, does it hold water according to you?
Declaration of intention or declaration of principle is principle that guide countries to come up with negotiated deal. It is not binding tool on filling dam, operation of dam, and generating power. It is just the rule, the instrument guide parties to come up in negotiated agreement. So in absence of negotiated agreement, there is no violation at all. You don't find a violation. For parties to come into agreement, obviously it needs good faith of each country. From Ethiopia's side, good faith, Sudan and Egypt side, good faith. So Ethiopia's good faith by itself may not yield countries to have negotiated deal. Without having negotiated deal, you don't say violation of any rules. They say preliminary agreement. Yes, it is agreement from a declaration of principle perspective, but it is not agreement that prohibit Ethiopia or any nation using its fair share from water resource.
Egypt says the construction of the dam could have significant effects on the availability of drinking water and agriculture production for the country. How to aid that according to you?
There is no reasonable element on Ethiopian GERD water utilization to affect significantly Egypt and Sudan drinking water utilization. The water going to generate power and continue to flow. Even the scientific outcome clearly suggests it make water normal flow in drought and other time. So it is very clear the nature of project is not consuming water. Obviously we are not saying Ethiopia would not use water for irrigation in the future and other developmental uses. The present water use is obviously non-conservative. It does not affect Egypt drinking water interest.
Egypt has persistently argued that the 1959 agreement between Egypt and Sudan is the legal framework for the allocation of the waters of the Nile. So would you please talk about the legal aspects accordingly?
Ethiopia is not party for that agreement. It is highly contested agreement because without having consent of Ethiopia, without having involvement in the negotiation process of those agreements, as a sovereign nation, Ethiopia there is no ground Ethiopia to bind itself in 1929 and 1959 agreements. So it is actually Egypt installed those agreements by the name of historic right in their constitution. The major challenge now for not coming into argument, actually the homework for Egypt in its own country, because Egyptian government might not come up in negotiated deal by disregarding historic right already they installed in their constitution. So that is major challenge. That is the homework for Egypt left. Unless that bottleneck broken, it will not really simple countries to come up in landing position in the negotiation.
Ethiopian ambassador to South Sudan, Nabil Mohammed Abdullahi, said the GERD project will not cause any harm to downstream neighbors Sudan and Egypt, as some reports have alleged. He said the commencement of the dam would neither cause harm nor contravene the 2015 Declaration of Principle signed by Ethiopia, Egypt, and Sudan. In an interview with the City Review, the ambassador said the opening of the dam should be considered as a regional development project instead of source of confrontation. In March 2015, Ethiopia, Sudan, and Egypt signed an initial deal to end dispute over sharing of Nile waters and the building of GERD, Africa's biggest hydroelectric plant. You are watching ETV News. Safaricom Ethiopia has announced finalization of preparation to begin service with 2517 dialing code from upcoming April 2022. The telecom company briefed the media how it is looking forward to build a network that suits the needs of Ethiopians. Matthew Harrison Harvey, Safaricom's Chief External Affairs and Regulatory Officer, told journalists that the company has built a data center in Addis Ababa with $100 million USD budget. Jerusalem Bitsa has more on this.
Safaricom Telecommunications Ethiopia briefed journalists that the company has built a data center in Addis Ababa with an outlay of $100 million USD. Matthew Harrison Harvey, Safaricom Chief External Affairs and Regulatory Officer, told journalists that the company has been undertaking a network that suits the needs of Ethiopians.
We've already invested $300 million in the equipment. Next year we're investing another $300 million in the equipment. And that investment is in order for Ethiopia to have that world-class telecommunication services that all of you deserve, you need investment.
He indicated Safaricom Ethiopia has announced the finalization of preparations to begin service with a plus 2517 dialing code with 2G, 3G and 4G network from upcoming April 2022.
With our networks, we'll be regularly investing, upgrading. So if you think about, originally there was 2G services, then there was 3G services, then there's 4G services. And at some point soon there'll be 5G services. So there's always continued investment in the network all the time. Maybe in the future there'll be 6G. So there's continued investment in our network. So what we're working towards as quickly as we can is to achieve those obligations. And also, but really focusing and ensuring, which we believe the customers are asking for, is quality services. So those quality obligations in the license, we're working to ensure that we achieve them. This data center is a key part of that. And what we'll be showing you in future events is how we're going with our network and rollout.
The company is also envisioning investing $8.5 billion USD in Ethiopia in the coming 10 years with a view to advance the sector.
There's a lot of investment to happen, $8.5 billion over 10 years. It needs a big machine with lots and lots of people, with lots of land, with lots of equipment. You can understand this facility we're showing you here is the first drop of an ocean, right? So there's a lot more to come.
The company plans to continue to build data centers, first at Adama and Redua, then across the rest of the country.
Investment Commissioner Lelise Name participated in a virtual seminar organized by Istanbul Chamber of Industry, aiming to share experiences and opportunities in Ethiopia on the subject of trade and investment. The Commissioner gave a speech regarding Ethiopia on the seminar and presented experiences and opportunities in the investment sector. She explained to participants that Ethiopia is one of the fastest growing economies in the world with a double-digit growth. Lise said the investment to GDP ratio has averaged 37.5% over the past 5 years, adding that the government has facilitated enabling environment for the foreign investment sector. And finally, Kenyan experts said the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam plays paramount role for regional economic development. The experts from various fields of study on the Kenyan national television suggested regarding the commencement of the power generation of the GERD. The participants appreciated Ethiopia's role to secure its interest and urged the riparian countries to work for common interest. Shagai Mato reports.
Kenyan experts discussed the commencement of power generation of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam on the Kenyan national television. The experts revealed that power generation of the dam will have a significant importance for regional countries in addition to Ethiopia.
If in northern Kenya we can get the electricity flowing from the dam, it will cost us 10% of what people in northern Kenya are paying for electricity right now. It will light up all of northern Kenya. 60 million Ethiopians will come out of the dark debal once this thing goes into line. It's the second the two major developments that we want in our region is the Inga Dam in the DRC. The second one is this one, because we cannot power any kind of manufacturing and any kind of industrialization in our continent, in our region, without cheap power. And one of the problems we have is cheap power. And this, if we can get this grid to come into northern Kenya, even to come as far as Nairobi, this will be a huge deal, because you know what the KPLC is doing to us.
Scarcity of power and lack of infrastructure have challenged the African continent. However, the beginning of power generation of the dam will resolve these problems and play a great role for regional integration of the African countries, they added.
70% of Europeans trade with each other. Over 50% of Asians trade with each other. Only 14% of Africans are trading with each other. The reason is we don't have the power, we don't have the infrastructure development, and we don't have other things in order for us to now start serious manufacturing and improving the life of our people. And therefore, I'm very, very pleased, Dubal, to see this the Grand Renaissance Dam open as a critical infrastructure for the continent of Africa. This should not be looked at as Ethiopian, but will have significant impact in Kenya, the neighboring country, including Sudan.
They opposed the stance that Egypt and Sudan hold to use the Abyei River alone. The riparian countries shall work together for common interest, avoiding the disagreement.
The government of Egypt and the government of Sudan, that it's very important that there's a joint cooperation and a new agreement. I know that there's historical agreements all over since the colonial times. But right now, Egypt, Sudan, and all the riparian countries, including Uganda and including Kenya, Lake Victoria is a contributing factor to the Nile. So we need to have a summit of these countries so that we can make sure that water is not the next conflict in Africa.
The experts reiterated that such kinds of flagship projects are vital to change the livelihood of Africans. It is to be recalled that Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed noted the dam will have an objective of integrating Africa up to European countries based on mutual benefit.
Over now to a quick reminder of the headlines. Foreign Affairs Ministry hails U.S. government for publicly exposing and condemning TPLF. Kenyan experts say GERD plays paramount role for regional development. Well, you have been watching ETV News. Thanks for joining us and have a great time.